I do want to talk about your experience on TikTok, because that seems to be a very big trend that everyone's looking into. I've been following a few therapists and psychologists as well, a lot of health experts, and a lot of life coaches, and those are. I'd be curious to hear about your opinion on the life coaching scene. It's very interesting. I don't know. I'm undecided. Let's put it that. But
yeah,
it's probably a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think, well, so to start, I guess, I think a lot of human beings, they don't, I mean, especially when they're not in the mental health field, or they don't have a background in research or some type of scientific inquiry, that they don't really understand the qualifications that someone should have in order to try to help you with your mental health or something that's going on in your life related to mental health. And so with these coaches, I think there are some that are wonderful if they have good informed consent and they're actually letting the person know that they might not really understand what's going on in terms of brain chemistry or trauma over the course of a lifetime and things of that nature. But if they're direct and they say, I'm coming from my own personal experience, this is what I do know, and this is what I can't help you with. And if they know when to refer to an actual mental health professional, then I think they could be really helpful for people. I think pricing also matters. Sometimes they price themselves really, really high when they don't necessarily have the expertise, and then the person could be spending all of their money on a life coach and then experience something extremely severe like the death of a husband or a wife, for example, and then be completely depleted of funds to be able to go see someone that can help them with such a traumatic psychological issue. So I think it depends on how they're pricing themselves, if they're being honest about what they can and cannot do, what their protocols are for referring people out, and whether or not they stay in their focus. And I mean, and that they're working with a population that they know that they can serve. I think that those things are the most important. Are you taking their resources for personal gain? And are you informing them of who you really are, what your background is, and what you have to offer?
Yeah, awesome answer. Well, with that being said, Dr. Courtney Tracy, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
All right. So, I wonder if I should leave that as just the intro. What do you think about life coaches? And then hit off strong. And yeah, so Dr. Tracy, why don't you tell us about the nature of your business?
Yeah, so I think the nature of my business is the human mind. It's a very complex system, and we're not really taught, from my own personal experience and from working in the field for 10 years, professionally for the last 8 years, we don't really understand how our mind works unless we are in the field of mental health or psychology or cognitive science, something that has to do with the mind itself. But a lot of the times people are going into a variety of different fields. And so they never get that true understanding of how their human brain works from a cognitive, emotional, and survival standpoint. And so my field is designed with medical professionals and clinical professionals and life coaches to an extent to try to help people go throughout their lifetime understanding their mind and not attaching to the negative things that happen to them, so that they don't become burnt out or depressed or suicidal or not understand the good things in life because what's done is so extreme and blame so much on them. So the nature of my work in terms of that broad scheme is I've packed it down to people with mental health issues related to addiction. So alcohol and drug use, and then the mental health issues attached to that. So alcohol and drugs can lead to anxiety or depression. They can come from trauma and cause trauma. So it's mainly co-occurring for drug addiction and the mental health attached to it.
Awesome. Oh, by the way, if you hear scratching noises in the background, it's because I have turtles over there. Yeah, so you might hear them doing like backflips off their little deck over there, or scratching trying to get back on. So just should have mentioned that in the beginning. Okay, so doing a lot of addictions counseling, a lot of and did you mention trauma as well?
Yes.
Okay, and usually a lot of times these things coincide, either one way or the other way. And it's you're right, it's such a complex thing, the human mind, and without that clinical, that scientific training, I mean, even the science, like when I started like studying it myself, and just going through my schooling, what I realized is even the science, like we really don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And the news doesn't help either, because they'll say, oh, psychologists have figured out, science have proven that. And the reality is more like, based on this experiment with these 900 limitations, this study seems to suggest, possibly for more future research considerations, that maybe there's a correlation somewhere here. We'll see what happens in 25 years. That's what the actual reports say.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of it too. And if the general human population understood their minds more on an introspective level, then they would know, okay, I'm trained to want to believe things that are said to me in general by professionals, and I'm trained and I'm conditioned to want to believe either things that are good for me or things that are bad for me based on how I already feel inside. And so there's also confirmation bias. So if they see something on the news that's from someone that's in the professional of the field of the statement that they're making, and they already feel that way, then they're going to believe it even more, whether or not it's true. And so the more and more someone can understand how their mind works, the more and more they're not going to fall necessarily for something such as a broad statement about mental health coming on the news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, confirmation bias, that's such a fascinating phenomenon. When I learned about it, I realized, like, wait a second, I am so prone to that. Every time I hear something on the news, or if I see like something on my Facebook feed that agrees with my point of view, automatically, that's true. And somehow, magically, I'll completely ignore all the evidence otherwise as well. So just by knowing that and having that level of humility to realize that me being a human being, I'm subject to these findings, and me having this knowledge doesn't make me actually better than anyone, but that I can start to work on myself and almost like catch myself when I realize I'm falling into one of these kind of these cognitive distortions,
Completely
irrational thoughts. I don't know, I'm getting technical now for the audience who's not familiar with these terms.
No, but yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think it's really important that it's important for people to know that the people that are, and I mean, this is going to get into like way existential, like media.
Let's do it.
Shit, but people should really understand that even if they don't understand that they have confirmation bias, that the people that are coming out with the news know that people have confirmation bias and know that if they put out a statement that's extremely heavy and really forthright and seems to have a lot of information behind it, that people are going to believe it. And so that's, I mean, in politics, for example, that's why they blow it up and they say the same thing over and over and over again, because if you hear it over and over again, then you think it's true, just in general. And then if you believe it after hearing it over and over again, then even if you only hear it once and they say there's something to back it, then it becomes an even stronger viewpoint in their own minds. So we're all just being manipulated by people who want something from us that understand our mind better than we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's really interesting because like the science itself is neutral. It's what we do with the science that is everything. And I remember when I was in high school and I was learning media studies, they started telling us about all these psychological tricks and, you know, like making people watch commercials while they're plugged up to fMRI machines to see certain parts of the brain that light up so they can perfectly time the music, the scenes, the emotions to maximize sales for like a bag of chips or something like that. And I was thinking, like, my first reaction was, wait a second, I could control the population if I applied this knowledge this way. And I actually got really interested in the psychology of the human mind for completely the wrong reasons. And I think like that's actually, you know, the scary thing is to go into a career of psychology and use it in a very kind of a malevolent, Machiavellian, or like manipulative way. That's actually where all the money is. So my question to you is, why did you go to the actually helping people when the lucrative opportunities is with the major evil corporation side?
Yeah, well, I started in the major evil corporation side, and I started working for the county, and that was really depressing actually, because there isn't enough funds going to mental health, and I worked in the mental health section of Ventura County, and it was very, very, very sad. So, and there was no money there other than government money. So then I decided, okay, and I was going to USC, which was, I mean, I went to USC because of the name USC, and it was really expensive, and I would go back and not do that again because I just don't think that it's that important, and it's clout that's unnecessary. But since I was working at USC, I wanted to, or going to school at USC, so I saw a job ad to work in Malibu. A lot of money, millions and millions of dollars were going into this business to run it. They were making millions and millions of dollars, and the care was not as good as it could be. And I started getting promoted really, really quickly. About every 6 months, I got a higher and higher position in the company. So I was getting more exposure to how it was running and what they were focusing on, what the people at the very top were focusing on. And they weren't clinicians. And so that was one of the main issues, is that they didn't really have the full understanding, other than their own experience, of what it's like for their clients' brains to heal from drugs and alcohol and mental health issues. So I worked there for 3.5 years. And then I couldn't do it anymore. I was making really good money. I was making well over 6 figures. I was only 25 years old, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy because I myself was someone that struggled with a parent that used drugs when I was growing up, with a mother who I thought had mental health issues at the time. We were poor in a really wealthy neighborhood, and I wanted to become who I always needed when I was younger and struggling. And so I didn't have the capability to do that in this really wealthy environment that I was in, because it was more about the money and keeping the business open than it was about helping people, whether you had to help them for free or not. So I stepped out of that, and I made my own business with no venture capital, no investors, nothing at all, in Santa Barbara, where I had lived at the time. And we've been open for coming on 3 years. So almost as long as I worked in this major company. I'm making the same amount of money, if I'm making more money now than I did before, but I'm also scholarshiping about 25% of the clients that come to my clinic. So people are getting free care when they can't afford the type of care that we provide. And so for me, I just want to help people. And yes, a business needs to make money, but the great thing is that when it makes money, then I give things away for free to people that can't afford it. And so I found a balance between being able to take care of my own family, which in turn means my own mental health and the mental health of my husband and my parents and my children, and also being able to help the community because I'm sustained enough in my life to give back.
Mm-hmm. That's like business excellence right there. You're able to generate a good, healthy profit so you can take care of yourself and your family. And that's important, because a lot of times people think, if you have something good away, why are you profiting? Why are you not giving away for free? It's like, well, actually, if I have a surplus, I'm in a better position to give even more and to reinvest more. And then, which you're able to subsidize those who truly need it but cannot afford it, which is, that's a trap, right? With the mental health field is the people who need it the most are in the most complex situations. They also usually lack the financial resources to get the help, and then you end up multiple levels of just difficulties that keep them there. Multi-generationally too, super sad.
Oh, yeah. Completely.
Yeah. So you've been able to find, but you know what that also speaks to is just the unbelievably high demand for mental health support. Are people paying out of pocket for your help outside of the ones where you scholarship?
Some of them, but sometimes it's because they don't believe in the health insurance model, or they don't like their money being in banks at all. And so they're paying cash. And I'm not working with I worked with a lot of celebrities when I worked in Malibu, and now I'm just working with the general population, but some people have money from generations, or they own land, or they're farmers or something like that. But most of the time, and that was the thing in Malibu, it was all about high profile celebrities and flying people from all over the country that had really great health insurance policies that paid like hundreds of thousands of dollars in a month. And so they're saying that they use insurance to help these people, but they want insurance that pays them $100,000 a month. So it's like, it's still about the money. So what I did at my company is I went in network. So I'm in network with all of the insurance companies. So people don't have to pay their medical deductibles. They don't have to pay co-pays or out of pockets because we're in network. So we can take HMOs, and even if they have a PPO policy, we can take their policy, and we have contracted with the health insurance companies so that these people don't have to pay for these services that are so necessary. So there's preventative care, and then there's things like getting medication if you have a cold. But with these contracts that I've had with these mental health carve-outs of health insurance companies, is I've worked with them to understand that these people that need mental health and substance use treatment, they are going to die. They're going to die. It's as severe as cancer, and they need to be treated. They need to be given authorization, and they need their care to be covered whether or not they can afford it out of pocket. And so that's what I've done, is I've gotten contracts with health insurance companies so that people don't have to pay out of pocket. But if they don't have insurance, then they do pay out of pocket. And because I'm the owner and I control the finances and I'm the founder and I'm the CEO and I'm a doctoral level clinician, I have compassion for people, and I can make the decisions which I would not have been able to do at the place in Malibu, to say, you know what, I know that our program costs X amount of money a month, but I appreciate your story and I want your son to live. And so have him come to our center for 3.5 months for free. And no one can tell me that I'm not allowed to do that.
And I'm thinking like just levels of difficulty there. So first of all, you're like a purple flying invisible unicorn. And just like, so you have all the academic level knowledge, you have your doctorate level credentials, you have your clinical experience, and then you also seem to have a very naturally or learned like gifting towards entrepreneurship and relationship building as well. That's a lot of different factors that combine together just so you can do the right thing that every mental health professional has signed up to do to begin with. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, it's unique. People ask me how I got to the place that I'm at. And I mean, even the other day I was telling my husband, I don't feel like it's this like huge feat that I've accomplished. I mean, I have a really successful company and I have a doctorate and I am nice to people and I give people things and I feel like I'm smart. But if you put that all together, living this doesn't feel, I mean, maybe it's because I know what ego is and I know that it's not really helpful and that it's actually the demise of several people's existence in general, that I don't feel like I come from this place of pride or gluttony. But I don't know. I don't know what it is, other than the fact that I have been in so much pain in my life from when I was younger, and that I just knew, and that no one really knows where the hell we go when we die. All we know is that we have this existence to do the best that we can and to try to make anything that we've ever been through that we don't want anyone else to experience not happen for those people. And so I think it's just the drive to want to help the world be a better place. And that sounds cliche as fuck, but I really do feel like that's what's gotten me to the place that I'm at. And that I want to prove people wrong. I want to prove the people wrong that are mean and that feel like their opinion of whether or not someone can do something or not, I want them to know that that's just not true, and they're just their own individual person and everyone has the opportunities. I have privilege for sure, but everyone has opportunities to an extent to try to do what it is that they want to do in their life. And I have to have it with good intention. It has to be because they want to really help people, not just because they want to make money. Like Jeff Bezos, for example, he makes a shit ton of money, and now there's people leaking nude photos of him on the internet. It's like, I'm sorry, but that's karma. And maybe you're doing good things, but there's probably a little bit of a reason why someone's releasing naked photos of you when you're a billionaire and everyone else is poor. So I think it has to also do with, having good intentions and knowing why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like no one's leaked Bill Gates nudes yet.
Right.
Kind of a scary thought to think about, to be honest. I don't want to think about Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates naked anymore.
Right.
All right. So it sounds like your own story was a very big reason for why you do what you do today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the things I like to, I don't know, like I love haters on the internet for some reason. Like it always gives me like this kind of this weird sense of joy where it's like, I don't agree with what they're saying. It kind of hurts what they're saying, but at the same time, it's like it's almost like fuel for me to keep doing what it is that I do. Because like, I mean, I don't know, like, is that, do you feel kind of like that way as well? Or am I just kind of messed up in that way?
I mean, the honest answer from me is that I think for me, it's sad. It feels like the first thing that comes through my mind when I see someone say something negative about me is there's a moment that has been carried on throughout my whole life, where I've never felt like I was good enough, and I have imposter syndrome. So the first response is, oh shit, they're right. They found me out. I don't know what I'm doing. And like, I should just listen to what they say and just like shut up and not do anything ever again. And that lasts for like 20 seconds, but it's this innate, like, oh no, you know, trying to protect myself. And then after the 20 seconds goes by, and a lot of work has gone into this as well, then I have compassion and I go, okay, most of what people express outwardly towards others is how they actually feel about themselves or their life, because it's the most prominent and the first thing that comes up for them to respond to someone that they don't even know. And so if their life is so deeply ingrained with negativity or hate or judgment, then I just feel really bad for that person. And so yes, I deal with, I mean, it hurts. It's being directed towards me, but then I just feel bad, and it makes me not necessarily want to keep doing what I'm doing to show them that they're wrong, but it's mainly to keep doing what I'm doing because there's clearly a lot of pain in the world and people that want other people to suffer just because they're suffering. And if there's that much suffering in the world, then that's just more of a reason why I need to keep doing what I'm doing, so people are in less pain in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was thinking, like, the idea of projection, right? It's just like, it's very interesting, and we're all subject to it. Like the aspects of our own self that we tend to dislike the most, we'll pick it up in others like right away.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Completely. Yeah, it takes one to know one. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. And the crazy thing about that is it's so ingrained in us until we like know these things and we catch ourselves in certain patterns that like it doesn't even like pass our own minds as something that's our own individual responsibility. But it's just like, no, it's very clear and apparent that that person has, I don't know, let's just say I was insecure about my nose, that person has a very ugly nose, and look, you know, like, and how do they even look themselves in the mirror
Right.
in the morning? But really it's like, oh no, it's actually my own insecurity, and because I feel that way, so then I see that in others and I judge others because I want to justify my own position.
Yeah. I mean, it's like one, you want to know that you're not alone in your own suffering, so you'll cause it for someone else so you don't feel alone. But then also, if you see someone that you think should be suffering the same as you and they're not, then there's that issue of hate or jealousy or wanting to be able to walk around freely looking in this way, and that upsets you. It upsets you that they seem like their life is better even though they might have the same situation as you. And so it's just wanting to equal the playing field by putting people down where you feel like you are, instead of doing the opposite and asking for people that you feel like are up above you to help rise you instead.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, let's get philosophical now, because what we're talking about here reminds me of a lot of my educational upbringing, which is very, I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I did sociology at York University, which is known for being a very hard left-leaning liberal arts college, and basically everything is critical theory and Marxism. So it's anti-capitalism. It's if you're doing things for a profit, you're evil, and the government should take all your seize all your properties and throw you in jail. Very, very, very fundamentally toxic, especially if anyone's ever read through the Communist Manifesto. And that kind of like that conflict theory, this idea of like everyone's just fighting and everyone's a victim of someone else, that is kind of like the fundamental philosophical like foundation to a lot of the disciplines that aim to ultimately help people, like in the work that we're doing. So my question to you is, what you're describing is actually very capitalistic. It's value creation. It's identifying needs and gaps in the market, and then using our resources and our individual scrappiness to bring the tools together to alleviate societal pains. I mean, it's a very functionalist view versus a lot of the conflict and, systemic violence, oppression, look at me, woe, the person who's taken advantage by those, the privileged. Like, why did you lean towards kind of like that philosophical application compared to the usual?
Well, I think I'm trying to find a middle. And so one thing that hasn't been mentioned, I guess, in regards to my business is that, yes, I have contracts with health insurance companies, but I've also been trying for almost 2 years to be able to take Medi-Cal, to be able to treat people that get support from the government, that literally pay nothing into it, and they just get it. And so I think, yeah, it's a little difficult. I'm trying to find a middle, especially right now. I mean, in politics, they're talking so much about, sorry, my baby's crying. They're talking so much about like socialism, communism versus capitalism and individual ability to succeed and make as much money as you want. I think that in general, and this is a really desirable outcome, I think, for most people that want human beings to survive and that aren't just fully ego and greed driven, is they want everyone to at least be able to live a normal and healthy life. And so I think it's really difficult to do. I don't think there should be massive billionaires. I think that that's completely unnecessary. But I also don't think that there should be people that are eating out of trash cans that are under the age of 10. I think that's really fucked up too. And so I don't know. I think there needs to be a balance between figuring out how you can make neither of those things happen. But I still think that there needs to be competition. I think that there needs to be innovation. And I think that if everyone was treated equally, then we wouldn't be moving forward in our existence unless people did it from their good humanitarian internal beliefs. And I think there's plenty of people out there, but you also have to understand that sometimes people want a lot for their ideas. And so there might be someone, like, it's just, every human being is different. And so you can expect people that want humanity to succeed and move forward, but maybe they aren't smart enough to develop a vaccine for a new virus or to progress in AI or something like that. And so you just, there has to be a middle ground where you have to acknowledge that some people that are going to push forth our existence and make us be able to survive longer are probably going to be greedy. And if there isn't some room for them to be able to be greedy, then we might not ever get the advancement that only they as a human being have to offer. So I really think it just depends. It really depends. It's a super fucked up situation to try to figure out in this country. And we judge ourselves on other countries and we do the exact same thing that human beings do with each other. And so it's all about whether or not across the board, people are willing to give what they have and not necessarily always get what they want in return.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm in Canada, so we're just kind of like having our popcorn and watching the politics go down in the US. Yeah. It's super, well, from our perspective, because we only have like the public media, I don't see the day-to-day reality. It seems super, super polarizing right now. And I'm guessing in the day-to-day reality, people are kind of more in the middle, and they would align with your views of like, we need to have some sort of room for those who are greedy but capable to produce the innovations that move us forward. Yet at the same time, we need to have some sort of system that really helps to truly help us on the bottom of the ladder so that they're able to just like exist and climb out of, and be given that boost to climb out of this hellhole that they're living in.
Yeah.
And that's always the challenge of like, how do you do that? What's the most appropriate way to go about doing that?
Yeah, completely. And I think it really comes down to, well, people get really wrapped up in their own minds and they feel like if someone's going through something that they have never been through, then they don't want to take the time to figure out what that person may be experiencing. So Dr. Gabor Mate, he's from Canada. He's one of like the most world-renowned doctors, medical doctors, that's working with harm reduction in Canada, in Vancouver specifically, downtown Vancouver, with high risk drug addicts. And he's working in needle exchanges, and he's working with safe injection sites, and he's going around and he's treating people that other people think should just die. They think that it's a moral issue. And it's not a moral issue, it's a brain disease. And yes, maybe they made choices early on in their life that made them become addicted. But once they're addicted, and usually it was that they've experienced childhood trauma, so they just wanted to escape their own life. And so now you're punishing them for wanting to escape their own life that they didn't have a choice over how they were treated. And so there's these like really dualistic and multiplistic viewpoints of addiction, mental health, how human beings should be treated, how politics plays into it, and what's legal and what's not legal, and how we should help people and how we shouldn't. And it really all comes down to every position in government and every position in authority of another person, whether it's a student with a teacher or a parent with a child. We're all using our own brains and what it absorbs, and then how we interpret what it absorbs to make choices in life that are either going to be at the benefit of human existence and the people that you love and care about, or at the complete fucking demise of society, which happens as well. So it really depends. Again, it all goes back to whether or not people understand how information is brought into their own brain and how they take history from their own lives and how they've interpreted the history of their field or their country into whether or not they're going to make this choice or that choice. And it's so individualistic, and even people that are being completely objective or think they're being completely objective, they're not. They're just not. It's not possible. We're subjective human beings. We are emotional, and we always come from our own experience, even if we're a complete philosopher, like Socrates has a complete view of his own existence and what he thinks about. And so we're all human beings, and we're not better than one another. And when we act like we are and we know what we're talking about more than anybody else, that's where we run into issues on all levels.
So to add on to that, let's talk about the influence of modern tech. So with today's kind of content curation algorithms, especially like on TikTok, where I found you originally, it is so powerful in creating essentially an echo chamber based on your location, your beliefs, based on your behaviors, and they'll keep sending really good content that predicts your personal biases. So you end up creating your own bias and creating an individually perfectly catered set of content that only agrees with your beliefs. And not just that, but also the way that the modern social media works. And it's basically like a slot machine, right? You keep scrolling through, and like maybe when you first started, you were getting some great content that you really loved. And then eventually that kind of wears off. So then now you have to randomly, what's that term for the gambling addictions? Like randomly assign rewards or something like that?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, right? With the slot machine, it's like there's no correlation between what you're doing and when you get rewarded. So then the brain starts developing that addiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now you have the slot machine psychology plus these echo chambers. So then like these human weaknesses that we're talking about and how we're really no better than one another. Well, the like those who are not aware, it's almost like this modern tech makes it even worse.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that makes it really difficult. I mean, it's the same, it's like programmed confirmation bias. Like it's programmed, and then there's really no way out of it. If that's where you're getting your information, and that's where you're getting your sense of reality and other people around you, then yeah, I mean, you're pretty much screwed if you don't have an understanding that there's a lot more out there than just what you're seeing.
And have you been seeing this kind of effect clinically on clients of different generational ages?
Rephrase the question.
Yeah, that was a pretty poorly worded question. Yeah, because I'm wondering, like in your clinical work, I'm guessing you work with do you work with a wide range of different clients, or do you focus on a particular age range?
Well, mostly it's 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds, just because that's the population right now that's seeking help for addiction treatment. Like their parents are sticking them in, or they're realizing that they have that other people in their life are reaching these milestone goals, and they're just out using drugs for many, many years. And so it's mainly 20 and 30-year-olds. But when the issues come up for someone that had just turned 18 or someone that's 66, it's the same problem. But the generation that has been exposed to social media is severely struggling more than people that had decades of their life without any social media. And so they probably didn't grow up in a community where everybody felt the exact same way. And so they were exposed to different types of individuals. And these days we have the ability to curate, basically follow who we want to follow. And then these systems will tell us, oh, well, if you want to follow these people, then we'll show you these other people that you don't know, but that are basically the exact same person with the same philosophies, the same message. And so people are getting people in I would say some in their 30s, but mainly in their 20s and younger, especially children and teenagers. They're struggling severely because they don't know either. Their platforms are showing them that everyone's just as depressed as them, but with no solution, or they're being shown people that aren't depressed at all that they're choosing to follow. And so they see this idealistic lifestyle that they want, and then they see this down lifestyle that they're in, and there's no help in the middle. There's no way for them to understand how to get from the bottom of where they're at up to where they want to be. They just see this unreachable goal, and social media and these algorithms are not really helping them to improve or feel like they should have hope or motivation. Like there should really be an algorithm on the back end of every possible social media where if someone is putting anxiety and depression or suicide or mental health help or I don't want to live or rest in peace or whatever it is, there should be an automatic algorithm where it throws in some happy shit for these people, where they see positivity and they're giving coping skills, because these people, these corporations have the control of what they show people and what they don't. And they have all of their data, and they know that they're depressed, and they know that they're sad, and that they're children. And they should be purposefully putting that information out there in the world so people have more exposure to it when they need it.
Yeah, I'm actually hoping to do, at least like contribute my part in some of that solution, because I've been putting a lot of psychoeducation content on there. You know, like basic things like talking about like use I statements, like I feel, instead of this, like externalizing the problem. Yeah. And one of the things that freaks me out about like TikTok in particular, where I'm posting most of this psychoeducation, is the vanity metrics are out of control. Like, I mean, like I used to post some YouTube videos, and then after like maybe like a month or two, I might get like 300 views. And if I post like an Instagram photo, maybe I'll get like 50 likes on or something. But when I posted like a TikTok one, I think like I'll get like hundreds in like no time flat. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, when I started to analyze how exactly do they measure a view, it's literally if it just appears on the page and someone scrolls past it for like just like a second, it counts as a view. So the actual true engagement and the amount of time people are actually spending on my content is very little. But the thing is, because they want people addicted to the potential of clout, like you see like you know, influencers like Charlie D'Amelio, and she's got like 30 million followers now or something like that, which, you know, I mean, good for her. But then you look at her audience of like 30 million kids who are thinking like, I can get that kind of attention. And there's all these vanity metrics that are just not actually, it's actually not completely not real, but it's addictive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so addictive. I mean, yeah, I got TikTok, like if I pull it up, I got TikTok like a month ago. And what I think is like I think they're like, they want it to be addictive. They know that the generation is that it's just about the number. The higher the number, the better of a person you are, the better you deserve to live. That's how some people think about it. Mm-hmm. And so like on my Instagram, for example, you know, there may be like a few hundred likes on a video or a post that I made, but it's individual to each post. And what TikTok did is they combine all of the likes. And so now you have this much higher number at the top of your profile that makes you want to do it even more. So right now I'm at almost 500,000 likes in the combination of my videos. And on my individual ones on Instagram, there's a couple hundred. And so not only are you addicted to wanting to be on that platform instead, but now you're addicted to those higher numbers of hundreds of thousands to get to that point. And then you feel it's this brain process that you feel more depressed and like your other videos aren't good enough. And I don't feel that way, but that's because I'm a doctor in clinical psychology, but most people aren't. And so they definitely do that intentionally, and they boost the ones that are faster for the most part, like 15 seconds. So that, because I'm an addiction professor as well. And you can get addicted to anything. You can get addicted to anything. It's the dopamine pathway in your brain that is attached to your survival that eventually tells you that you have to do this thing in order to survive, even though that's at the very unconscious level and someone doesn't necessarily think, if I don't go on TikTok every day and get a lot of likes and views, I'm going to die. But that's what your brain thinks. And so it's training you to want to do this thing over and over and over again. And you have no idea that they're just completely taking over your brain processes all the time in every way.
You know what's really interesting? That whole stereotype of like, oh, millennials are so addicted to their phones. I think there was like a local news segment talking about how like if millennials are in a waiting room, you take their phone away, after 15 seconds, you start getting actually angry. I'm like, wait a second, that sounds like withdrawal. It's a mental addiction type thing. This is like no different than when you take cigarettes away from people back when everyone was smoking.
Yeah, it's not different at all. You can experience physical withdrawal symptoms from removing something outside of yourself. You can, like for example, people think, oh no, you can't have physical withdrawal when, like for a kid, someone whose parents think that they've become addicted to their phones and they need to be more social out in the environment. No, your kid is social on the internet. And if you take that away, then you're taking away their complete social ability. And now they're sitting there feeling these withdrawal symptoms that are no different. Like for a parent, if a parent's ever had their heart broken and you feel like shit and you don't want to get out of bed and you feel sick, it's the same thing. And so those are physical withdrawal symptoms from removing a person from your life. And so why would that be different from removing an electronic device or an app from someone? It's not different, because the addiction is in the brain, and the brain is a physical reaction to the rest of the body. And so, yeah, you can experience physical withdrawal from emotional removement and external removement of things in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gotta love the attachment science stuff. It's so interesting. Because like for the longest time, people associated addiction and with like just like physical substances, but it's like, no, it's a lot more deeper than that. Especially like, you know, when people would say like, oh, weed's not addictive, but it's like, yeah, but the people who can't stop smoking weed, it's not the physical addiction, it's a mental addiction. It's what that marijuana or the social circumstances of smoking weed means to them, and how that soothes pain or gives them the sense of like, I don't know, importance in life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think weed is addictive. I mean, there's high potency THC at this point with the intention of getting people higher faster. And that's the same with any other drug. When opium went to heroin, that went to pills, that went to fentanyl, the purpose was so that you could get higher doses faster through better routes to feel it more, to get more addicted. It's the same thing that they're doing with weed now. It's that it's more high potency THC, and with more high potency THC, then it's connecting to more receptors in the brain of these young children that are smoking this weed, and it's causing their brains to not know how to function regularly. And so, I mean, I don't know. I smoke weed. I'm going to say it. I smoke weed, and I treat addiction, but it's no different than someone that eats a donut and works with people that are trying to lose weight. For me, it's no different, and it's legal. So I'm going to say it. I've never said it on the internet before, but I'm going to say it. But I also think that doesn't mean that I can't tell people that there's high potency THC and that you shouldn't be smoking all day, every day if it's impacting your life, and that it can be addictive, and that you really shouldn't smoke weed when you're a teenager, because then your brain develops that dopamine pathway more, where it wants something outside of itself to feel better. And then you have more of a tendency and an exposure and a risk to get addicted to something else outside of yourself when you're older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm in Canada, so it's all legal now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's almost like another prohibition that we're living through. There's a lot of moral panic, and a lot of people just demonizing the substance, but not it's the relationship that the individual has with the substance. That, and also developmental stuff, like teenagers should not be engaging with these kind of substances in such a way, because it's I mean, like, it can mess up a lot of things, and I think that's where a lot of the issues we've seen on. And also to layer on top of the kind of the old stereotype of like the stoner, usually became like all the stoners that I knew in high school, they had really messed up family lives.
Yeah.
Like there was something really, really messed up, a lot of abuse, a lot of trauma, a lot of like, I mean, unspeakable things that I'm not going to say for the type of podcast that we're doing here.
Yeah.
And that's why they're doing it. And it's crazy.
Yeah, well, so I follow Dr. Gabor Mate so deeply. He's a huge part of my philosophy. And what he says, the one statement that I love the most that he said is he says, it's not why the drugs, it's not why the addiction, it's why the pain, why the pain. And so that's when this moral issue comes in, or where it's, oh, these children are being rebellious. Like, no, they're trying to numb like the fucked up lives that you've either built for them or that you're ignoring, that the parents or society or the government or their aunts or uncles or their friends, something's going on with them internally that's making them smoke this weed or that's making them do these drugs. And you really have to take it out of the causes from the behavior, and instead take a look at the causes of the behavior if you're really going to find a solution.
Mm-hmm. So speaking on pain, for a lot of people who are working their 9-to-5 jobs and want to get into the entrepreneurial environment, what I've noticed is it's not necessarily that people want to build their dream. They're just trying to escape the pain of their work.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but I think, and it takes the motivation of them wanting to do something that gives them passion and purpose, where it comes in. I mean, that's a huge part of it as well. But I think that, well, and society tells us that we should go into a 9-to-5. And that we should work that up until we're 65, and that we should, like, I don't know. I think it has also a lot to do with the hierarchical structure within each organization. So, I mean, I don't have one employee that works 9 to 5. I don't have one employee that works 5 days a week. I don't think it's necessary. And I think that, and there's actually a study done in a country, I don't remember what country, it wasn't the United States, and it wasn't
probably Scandinavia. They're always pretty cutting edge with this stuff.
Yeah, some European country that did a study with a few large corporations and took their employees from 5 days to 4 days, and their productivity increased by 40%. Now, the reason for that would obviously, it would be mental health. They would be able to take better care of themselves. They would feel less stressed. They would feel seen as human beings. And they would want to work harder knowing that they had a shorter amount of time. So I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the 9 to 5 is what is expected. And that's the same thing as mental health treatment. You're never going to treat every single person that's your client the exact same way, even if they're coming in for the exact same reason. So if you take jobs and employers, for example, into play, yes, maybe you have 10 production workers that are all using this machine to fill this product. So that's technically the same thing, but they're all different people. So they shouldn't all be given the same schedule with the same requirements. You should ask them about what's going on with them in their personal lives and oblige to that. You should mold. They should be able to get their work done and be themselves individually. And you as an employer should be able to differentiate between the human that's doing, between the job that's being done and the human that's doing the job. And so I think people are leaving their 9 to 5s because there's this movement going on in terms of mindfulness and individuality and being able to use your voice and say what it is that you need, where they're saying, fuck this. I'm not being treated like I have a life. I'm being treated as if I need to live to work and not work to live. And so that's, I think, a huge part of it, people moving from 9 to 5 because they want to work to live and not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the whole 9 to 5 setup was based on the Industrial Revolution. Right. So, I mean, like, people were literally cogs in a machine, and they were there to assemble very simple, like, maybe widgets together, one part of a widget from 9 to 5 to maximize productivity and output. And it was designed in such a way so that if the individual got, like, crushed by a machine or, like, died or got sick, you could just kick them out and then throw another person in. And the whole public education system was designed on building a society that is smart enough to follow instructions and to operate machinery, but at the same time, you want to dumb down creativity.
Yeah.
Right. Even the way our, like, school systems work, where you're going from class to class with your cohort, and you have your foreman, your teacher, which is issuing out standardized tests. There's expectations on behavior, and then, like, the bell even, where people are just being conditioned to go from one thing to the next. So lunch, this, and this, and this, and then there's standards. If you don't follow your quota or hit certain KPIs, you have no future.
Yeah, completely. It's so true. And so, yeah, that's the thing is that, in the beginning of us talking too, it was that it's just on every level. On every level, we are being manipulated and we are being controlled because people understand how our minds work better than we do. And the people that are saying, no, I'm not choosing, like, I don't choose to fall and conform into this, then they're considered rebellious or crazy, or they're trying to escape this system that we've put into that's been put in place to control our minds. And so they're using drugs and alcohol. And so we're demonizing and we're saying that these people that are going against the general systems of our existence are bad. And we choose to, instead of understand them, just try to control them even more in different ways. It's crazy. It starts from the moment that you're born, and then it goes in all through school, and then all of employment if you're in a 9 to 5, and then the government is an umbrella over all of it, and it's really hard to step outside of that and realize that you have values and that you're important as a human being outside of what any of these systems tell you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially because as we mentioned earlier, the system was designed for interchangeable parts, not individual human freedom, which is really ironic because with America, the philosophical foundation to society, which was before the Industrial Revolution, did value the individual and your own expression, your own journey to pursue happiness, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Canada, no, not so much. We're kind of, we're the people who fought against that, kind of, right? So it's a little bit different here, but for the most part, we're like, you know what? The American experiment's working pretty well, so I think we'll just copy them. Yeah. See some other topics here. Ooh, we can go heavy on the mental health, on, I'm not thinking there's a social media aspect with today's youth, and then there's also going deeper with the business side. Not sure which direction I want to go in. What are you feeling right now?
Well, I mean, I think because we're running out of time. So I think we could, I don't know. I mean, I think I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, we've been here for an hour already. So what do we schedule a future conversation and
that sounds good.
Talk about, you know what? Yeah, we'll reschedule a future podcast on, I think, I'm really leaning into TikTok and Generation Z and mental health. They seem to be the generation that values mental health the most. Yeah,
absolutely. I would love to do that. That's what I've noticed too with TikTok is, I mean, I gained like 70,000 followers for making a post on me being a therapist on TikTok. And in the analytics, well, first of all, like 95% of them are females, but in every single comment and every single direct message that I've gotten from TikTok besides people that wanted to be a therapist when they were older or wanted more information from me and from a podcast, are children under the age of 17 that are struggling with mental health. And so I think it's a great topic and I'd love to talk about it more.
Yeah. Well, that's all for this episode. Dr. Tracy, thanks for coming on the show. Oh, before we go, where can people find you if they want to follow what you do?
Yeah, so they can find me on TikTok and on Instagram at _truth_doctor. And then my clinic is goodheartrecovery.com, and we're an outpatient mental health and drug treatment center in downtown Santa Barbara, California.
All right, all that will be edited on the page and listed on the description.
All right, thank you so much. This was great. I look forward to the next one.